England and West Germany are out on the pitch and ready to go in the Azteca Stadium in Mexico. Here in London we have Ian St John and Jimmy Greaves. We won't hear from them till half-time though. So we go straight to Mexico, where Mike Channon is alongside your match commentator, Brian Moore.
Good afternoon to you from Mexico City, with the sweltering afternoon, with the time just coming up to 2 o'clock. Here's the England side, now without, of course, their Italian connection, Sir Francis Mark Haitley and Ray Wilkins back with their clubs for a cup competition. A new attacking partnership of Kerry Dixon of Chelsea, Gary Lineker of Leicester, and a chance in midfield for Peter Reid of Everton, who came on as a sub against Mexico on Sunday. Brian Robson took a knock in training yesterday. That was a scare, but he's been past fit, and at least he's going to start the game. And the West German side without 5 of their best players, but still a good mixture of youngsters alongside experienced men like Felix Magath in the midfield. Their most dangerous player probably is likely to be the little striker Pierre Littbarski, who has scored in each of Germany's last 4 internationals. We have a referee from Mexico, George Lianza. The players, in point of fact, came out very early. They've been on the pitch for something like 10 minutes, just waiting for the appointed hour of 2 o'clock to arrive before the game can get underway. A match in many ways of crucial importance for England after 2 defeats in this tour so far. That's Harold Schumacher, the West German goalkeeper from Cologne. He's been having a bad time, in point of fact, having conceded 14 goals in his last 3 games. The West Germans today in white shirts and black shorts, England in red shirts and white shorts as we get the game underway. That, of course, reminiscent of the 1966 World Cup final, when they were the colours worn and when England won, of course. The first rumblings of discontent, we understand, from supporters at home and certainly from critics as well about England's lack of success. Defeats in the first 2 games here, and the defeat at Hampden Park as well, 3 on the trot. I don't like it, says Bobby Robson, but we're here to experiment more than anything for next season. Well, this is the number 2, Thomas Berthold, for the West Germans. And certainly I have to say there's no pushing of a panic button by me. I'm reluctant to do that, because I thought so far we looked for a long period the better side against Italy until we lost to that laughable penalty, and then had a perfectly good goal disallowed against Mexico. Well, if those 2 games had finished in draws, and they could easily have done so, I think we would have taken a totally different look at this tournament. But of course we really have to beat the Germans today without 5 of their best players. I think it'll be something of a minor calamity if we don't, in terms of morale. The Germans, who, as I say, arrived without 5 of their best, and they only got here, as Butcher puts it back to Peter Shilton, on Monday, less than 48 hours, which, as Franz Beckenbauer, the manager himself, admitted, is a real risk for such a short-term acclimatization to the altitude here. That's Bremer, injured in his first touch, and Hoddle, who's getting another chance for England, finding Peter Reid away on the right. Bremer still down. Chance for Gary Stevens to put an early ball in and put behind by the sweeper Herget for the first quarter of the game, which goes to England. Well, Andreas Bremer from Kaiserslautern on his feet again. And Glenn Hoddle with the corner for England with just a couple of minutes gone. Mark Wright at the near post, Terry Butcher in there as well, looking for the flick on right with the header, but it didn't quite come England's way. Peter Reid finding Chris Waddle. There's another cross coming in, and Schumacher nicely behind it. There was an offside against Kerry Dixon and Terry Butcher. That's Frank Meal putting the ball back. The big blonde number 11 is Rahn. Augenthaler. Jakob's getting it back there. And Berthold making a break. Waddle had gone with him well. And Butcher again tidying it up back. to Peter Shilton. I've got Mike Shannon with me. What's your overall feeling, Mike, about the tour so far and these 2 defeats?
Well, the Mexican game was very disappointing, Brian. We didn't play at all in that game, but the first game against Italy was most encouraging, and I'm pleased to see that Brian Robson, I was talking to this morning at breakfast, that he was desperate to play today because he knows that they're not far off being a decent side, and I'm just looking forward to a good game this afternoon.
Well, here's Glenn Hoddle, who was pulled off in the game against Mexico. Little ball finding Chris Waddle. And now Gary Stevens, but the ball out of play. Stevens, who had an excellent first international against Italy and was desperately unlucky to concede the penalty in the last minute. Here he is now, cranking up a long throw for England. And Kerry Dixon's header. And of course, England's big problem has been a lack of goals. Only 2 scored in the last 5 internationals, both of those by Mark Hateley. Oh, the ball given away there by the Germans. Here's Peter Reid, foraging around there. Brian Robson well up there, looking for a shot, but putting it wide. But with Kerry Dixon, 36 goals last season for Chelsea. Gary Lineker, 29 last season for Leicester City. Well, let's hope that goal tally improves here in the Azteca Stadium this afternoon. That's Ron with the header. Magath. This is little Litbarski for the number 4, Jacobs, the big defender from Hamburg, who'll be looking after Dixon. Uwe Rahn again. Berthold, Rahn. Germans, unlike England, having a really good run. They've won their last 4 internationals and getting more impressive as they go. Litbarski, the little touch. And Augenthaler with a long-range shot which Butcher was able to block. Augenthaler with the throw, the captain of Bayern Munich, who will have played against Everton in European competition. Here's a good break and a nice little touch there towards Litbarski, and good work there by Mark Wright for England. Litbarski showing the speed, but Wright stuck well with him, and the Germans get a corner. Berthold coming up from the back. The big, tall Rahn, the number 11, might be the man they have to watch most closely, and Butcher has gone with him. Mateus with the long corner, and an indication there that they haven't really quite got the range yet. The ball does fly a lot further in this thin air. Here's Felix Magath. And Sanson gets it back to Peter Shilton.
It's interesting to see the Germans. They've got Herger, the sweeper, that is getting forward an awful lot. And I think we've just got to be a little bit careful that the Italians caused us most problems when the likes of Caprini got forward.
Throw out by Schumacher to Magath, who's had a real new lease of life in the German side. Such a clever midfield player from Hamburg. Rahn trying to make progress on the far side, but Gary Stevens there first for England. Coming up to 7 minutes gone, if you've just joined us. 0-0 here between England and West Germany and Mexico. Litbarski trying to get Meal away, and Sanson in the end. Well, I thought for a moment he may have been forced to give away the corner, but the referee quite rightly saying that Sanson was pushed. It's a free kick to England. Referee Lianza from Mexico, and now Waddle. Lineker, very quick indeed. The Germans arrived here knowing nothing about Gary Lineker and been told that he's quick, and were worried about his pace. Here's Hoddle. A quick word about Glenn Hoddle, Mike, because we keep saying this must be the last chance for Hoddle, who really never quite has performed for England as well as he does for Tottenham. Let's just see this throw first. There's Gary Stevens. It goes a short one to Glenn Hoddle. Trying a long shot. That almost caught out Schumacher. And Berthold happy to get it away for the West Germans. Gary Stevens. What about Glenn Hoddle then?
I think Glenn Hoddle's a great player, but unfortunately when he's been asked to play for England, he's always having to play on the right-hand side of the park, and he's not a player that can get forward and cause problems. I think his position is basically where Butch Wilkins or Ray Wilkins plays. He had a great shot here. This just shows his ability. He's got great ability around the box and always liked to win games. And I think from the middle of the park, he can do it a bit better than probably wide on the right.
Back with Harold Schumacher. Herget, the sweeper. Bremer. Trying to get Frank Neal away. But again, the superior pace of Mark Wright. And now Gary Stevens. In this scorching heat, England again wearing their special cotton Airtex shirts, which allows what little air there is in this big stadium to get through to their bodies. Good work by Hoddle. But he had a pretty good first half against the Mexicans and then faded a little bit. Dixon brought down by Jacobs. A free kick to England. Here's Waddle. Oh, he's got him twisting and turning, and he's got him beaten there. A little too high for Kerry Dixon. Do the things that you know you can do well, said Bobby Robson to Kerry Dixon. And scoring is one of those.
I think it's important that Chris Waddle starts going to the byline. Now, both John Barnes and him have been struggling just a little bit because they're not going by people. And consequently, Trevor Francis, who is a forward player, hasn't been able to get forward.
Here's Peter Reid, but he can't get it through to Dixon. Jacobs is there. Big Uwe Herbert, the sweeper. Litbarski. Ron. Neil has made a little darter down the left side. In fact, my German television commentator colleague was saying the Germans really were complaining today about the lack of acclimatization. They really felt the heat. They were playing league games last weekend. And as we all find when we come here, sleep has been a real problem for them. So we're not by any means seeing them at their best. There's Hoddle getting up for that one. Just to reacquaint you there, without Forster, they're probably one of their key defenders. Without Rummenigge and Briegel, both playing in Italy and wanted for the Italian Cup. And without their two top scorers in the West German Bundesliga, Klaus Allofs with 26 goals and Rudi Voller with 25, who are both injured. They're both here and might play against Mexico on Saturday, but they had no chance of playing today. So it is a weakened German side, but they're on the move now with Thomas Berthold. Braun. Magath. Finding Bremer, who's a fullback with a tremendous shot. Bremer again. To Augenthaler. Wanting somebody to show for him. Mateus is the man, and the shot, which is wide of Shilton's goal. It must have taken a slight deflection on the way. It's another corner to the West Germans.
Brian, I've noticed that Augenthaler is playing basically as their sweeper. We thought that Herget would play there. It's quite interesting because both Herget and Augenthaler are players that are prepared to come forward, and they're causing us just a couple of little problems early on.
Well, here's Litbarski with the corner for West Germany. Rahn's header. Gary Stevens with the clearance. Not a very effective one, and a throw to the West Germans. Magath, well taken out by Dixon, but the ball running to the number 6 Augenthaler. Bremer, the fullback, just watch his shot, there it goes, it's a good one, and Shilton was struggling to keep it out. All three goalkeepers have told us here how the ball moves wickedly in the air, and I warned you about Bremer's shooting qualities, and we saw it there. Well, it's a throw which Kenny Sansom will take for England. And the extraordinary thing is that where most people thought we would have a lot of long-range shooting like this one from Bremer, we've seen very little of it. You can't tell from that angle how much it was moving. But you can take it from me, it was swerving and dipping in the air. And Shilton, no doubt, was pleased to get behind it. Mike?
Yesterday when we saw the Germans shooting, they were the most impressive in training, and we were stood behind the goal, and everything they hit was moving, and that's what's happened today. They're the only team up to now that's really had shots from outside the box.
Well, Kenny Sanson with a throw for England. Terry Butcher's gone up towards the near post, looking for that little flick on, but in fact he's looked for Dixon instead. Here's Sanson again. And the ball just out of play. It's an England throw.
I also noticed, Brian, with headers from crosses that the players are getting very deceived by the flight of the ball. And in the first game, there were several good chances missed by headers. We blame the players, but it's actually the ball moving.
Sanson with a throw. And he comes as far as Reed. Kenny Sanson with a chance maybe of turning it in again. Peter Reed. And now Glenn Hoddle. Love to see him hit something from distance. Trying the little chip in and making no progress with it. Gary Stevens getting in first, very bravely there against Bremer. Berthold. Played in the last 5 games for West Germany. Bremer, Litbarski, and Reed quickly closing in on him, but he's slipped Peter Reed. This is Litbarski, and again Shilton called to make the save from Pierre Litbarski. Well, the Germans in the opening quarter of an hour have shown us more long-range shooting than anybody has in the fortnight or so we've been here.
One thing's for sure, Brian, we've got to get out and go tight on these players once they're coming on the edge of the box, because yesterday we saw it in training and they've done everything they've done in training.
Well, England with everybody except Gary Lineker back to try and stifle this threat, and Shilton gathering it well. Only Lineker is up. Augenthaler's with him, and Lineker might have shaken him off. But his precious little support, although Waddle's trying to get up fast. Lineker. Now Sanson. Looking for the cross. There it goes. And Kerry Dixon on the far side. Agarth was with him. And the goal kick given. So there's the score with a quarter of an hour gone. England 0, West Germany 0.
That was a good run by Gary Lineker. He's looking to get in behind people. It is important that we, with Gary Lineker and Kerry Dixon, that we get crosses into the box. It's so important because Kerry Dixon is a goal scorer, but he'll only score the goals in the box. He's not going to hold things up and make things happen outside.
Berthold taking possession from the number 6 Augenthaler. That's the number 5 Herget. I think we may find that Herget is still the sweeper, Mike. Augenthaler has got to stay deep because he's tight marking Gary Lineker.
Yeah, you're probably right, Brian. It's just the great thing about the Germans, either one of them can do it, I feel.
Butcher underneath this one, battling with Matthäus. Waddle. Dixon up front with Lineker. 0-0 the score. Brian Robson. He desperately wanted to play. I think Bobby Robson was very worried about whether he should play him because he was injured. It injured a thigh in training yesterday. But Brian Robson really wanted to play. Butcher. Reed. To his Everton teammate, but Gary Stevens couldn't get it. Germany's throw. Andreas Bremer with it. Herget. Bremer. Ball just in play. Hoddle. Germany's throw. Matthäus. England's throw. You're trying to make a point, Michael?
Yeah, like you were saying just now, the sweepers seem to be alternating, Herget and Augenthaler. Either of them can do it, but our problem tends to be when they break into the middle of the park is picking them up. We don't seem to be able to get a man to pick them up at the moment.
Butcher, the long ball, the sort of ball that Dixon likes if he can get to that byline. He crosses it in, and Lineker was almost in there, and Schumacher was stretched to the limit, and England get a corner. Good run there by Dixon. Really just the sort of ball he likes. He thinks that Hoddle is the sort of man who can play it for him. Did well there, Kerry Dixon. And Lineker was in bravely as well. England get a corner, which Waddle will take. Right, and Butcher again at the near post. Lineker just behind them. Robson and Dixon on the edge of the box. And Schumacher getting it above Mark Wright. Neil for West Germany. Litbarski, Rahn, Berthold, and Chilton's ball. Our record against the West Germans of late has hardly been impressive since that famous World Cup final victory in 1966. We've won only one of 7 games, and that was at Wembley in 1975, when England won 2-0. Remember, if memory serves me, Alan Hudson had a tremendous game that night. Hoddle looking for Dixon. And easy that time for Schumacher. And our goal scored by Colin Bell and Malcolm MacDonald on that victory occasion. So it's about time we beat them again. But at the moment it's 0-0, and at the moment it's the sweeper Herget coming forward, finding number 2 Berthold. Should be Sanson's. Certainly Franz Beckenbauer has tried a number of sweepers, but he reckons that Herget's about the best, and Franz should know he was probably the best of all time himself. Read in quickly. Franz Beckenbauer sitting behind his trainer there. Played here, of course, in the 1970 World Cup, so he knows the Azteca Stadium well. In a memorable semi-final against Italy, 5-3 won by the Italians, but he's played here also, he tells me, for Bayern Munich and, of course, during his period for the New York Cosmos. Quite a bounce on the ball there. That's another thing that the players have found here, that apart from flying such distances, it does bounce quite a bit. Gary Stevens. Hoddle. Played again for Gary Stevens. Played in early but inaccurately. And a goal kick.
It's been a very bright start by Kerry Dixon. He's looked very positive, and he's looking to get in the box, and he's got a couple of good crosses in. And also Glenn Hoddle, I think he's made it the most impressive start. Gary Stevens on the right there, and Glenn Hoddle has played a 1-2. Glenn Hoddle got a bit of space, got it back to him. Unfortunately, the cross wasn't good enough. But Glenn Hoddle, for me, is beginning to knock the balls he knocks for Spurs. He's knocking longer balls and far more positive balls. In the other games I've seen him play, he's been a little bit negative, may I say.
I think also that Lineker and Dixon are the type of players who like balls played in front of them, Mike, don't they?
Most definitely. They're positive players, and he's the right fella to knock them for him, and I think it's good for England.
Well, this is Rahn for West Germany. 0-0 the score with about 22 minutes gone. Bremer. Number 7 in possession now. Little chip by Litbarski. Mill hoping to get in there. Important that Wright wins it for England. And he wasn't quite sure of it, and the Germans were almost in. It looked like some pushing, but the referee allowed the game to go on. And here's Hoddle. Certainly no questioning Hoddle's skill and ability. Beckenbauer himself, who saw the game here in Mexico, was impressed by him, thought though that his staying power might be lacking, and thought that at times he looked a little slow. Well, here's Mark Wright coming forward. Lewis, I understand that Paul Bracewell is warming up, the Everton midfield player, as Hoddle plays the ball in now towards Robson.
Brian, it's interesting that Brian Robson is struggling.
Franz Beckenbauer, the German manager, 39 years old, 103 caps for his country, and the England bench there. Sorry, Michael.
I just feel that Brian Robson probably is just feeling that injury a little bit. He is struggling, and I think that possibly that Bobby Robson's thinking of bringing Bracewell on.
I gather he sat down again on the bench, Bracewell. The England manager, who says in spite of the defeats he feels no great pressure on him. Hoddle chipping it in. Good tackle by Hoddle. And he very nearly got the ball through to Sanson, but instead it's the number 5 Herget. Magath letting it go to Bremer. I don't think Litbarski will get to that. As Bobby Robson himself says, I've got 2 objectives. That's to qualify for Mexico, and he needs another couple of points from 3 home games for that, and then to come out here and pick up the pot. And this is all a part of a reconnaissance towards that aim. But a victory wouldn't come amiss. There's the cross coming in from Waddle towards Kerry Dixon. Punched off the top of his head, though, by Schumacher. The man with 36 goals, Kerry Dixon for Chelsea. Tremendous season, 70 over the last 2 seasons. This is right. Easy for Schumacher. Herget. Berthold. Struggling to keep it in and failed.
I think that the England team have done very well. At least they're in the middle of the park. They're all shutting down. Peter Reid's a great example. He's closing people down and not giving them much room.
What about Kenny Sanson?
Yeah, well, Kenny's a good left-sided player, and I think it's important when Waddle goes on the other side that he pushes in the hole on the left-hand side and gets some crosses in, because it looks as if Kerry Dixon could get a lot of luck tonight.
It's with Butcher. Lineker trying to force an error, does so, and the shot saved by Schumacher. England at least getting 1 or 2 shots in today. In goes Gary Stevens. Well taken by Waddle. Here in England again. Hoddle's gone away on the right. Waddle seeking to find him and does so. Crossed in again for Waddle. The flag stays down and Lineker's in there. And England close to getting on the score sheet again, but still 0-0. 26 minutes gone. Just over the top. What about that one, Mike?
It's been a great start for England. We've been so positive today, and not like the Mexico game where we seem to be a shambles. We've got far more shape. Glenn Hoddle is far more positive, and he's looking a very good player. Here he's had a great shot again. It's just a little bit lower, and it would have flew in.
The other thing is, you have to say, with the lack of acclimatization, yes, it's looking good for Hoddle so far. The lack of acclimatization, the longer this game goes on, the more exhausting it must become for the Germans. Bremer making a brave run from deep, and West Germany get the throw. It's with Frank Neal, the player from Mönchengladbach. This is Uwe Rahn. Back again to the number 6, Klaus Augenthaler, playing his 5th international, and a throw to England. The Germans play Mexico on Saturday and then fly home straight after the game. England, of course, go off tomorrow to Los Angeles for a game on Sunday against the United States. Jacobs getting in before Dixon. Butcher trying to pump it forward again for Kerry Dixon. Beats Jacobs in the air. sweeper was doing his job. Finds Felix Magath. Now Algenthaler. Herget again. Braun. Back to Herget. Plays for Bayer Erdington, the surprise West German Cup winners, the sweeper. Beat Bayern Munich 2-1 in the final. Here he is again. Finding Dietmar Jakobs from Hamburg. He used to play in the Hamburg side with Franz Beckenbauer. Oh, Reed takes possession there. Lineker to Robson. Caught out there, Brian Robson. Magath. Trying to get Neal on his way again. Good cross called for. Berthold has made a good break from the back as well, and the ball comes off Sanson for a West German corner. 29 minutes gone, 0-0. Mike Shannon?
The thing that impresses me with England is that we've definitely acclimatised. We're getting far tighter to our players, and we're pushing them up in the middle of the park, and players are tracking the players they got to mark down and getting their foot in and winning the ball.
Well, let's hope it continues. Here's Litbarski with the corner for West Germany. Here Litbarski again, a good cross. No, not a good one. But you're quite content to let it run out. Yes, England have been here a fortnight. In fact, the medical men say a month is ideal. I think the problem with that is next season is keeping players occupied and interested for a month, and then a month of competition on top of that. Here's Peter Reid and Dixon offside.
I'd like the opportunity to be occupied for a month, Brian.
Wrong. Advantage played again by the referee. Here's Brian Robson with Peter Reid outside him. Robson still going on, looking to get a shot in. It comes to Peter Reid. The little cross coming in. Will it come for Dixon? No, it won't. Waddle. Who I think is having his best game so far for England, Chris Waddle. But he couldn't get his cross in there. Berthold sticking out the foot. England's corner. Forward come Wright and Butcher. Waddle crossing it in, but hits it straight at Berthold. And now a break on for the West Germans. Matthäus. Oh, and he's gone past Gary Stevens. Litbarski in a bit of space on the far side. Matthäus is still there. Still with Litbarski. And the shot is saved by Shilton. And England really caught out there as the Germans made a move from one end of the field to the other. And for the third time in the game, Shilton has had a powerful shot to save. Bremer, the fullback. Herget, the sweeper. Litbarski, the man with the shot. And just wide of the goal. They're certainly piling in their shots.
There's no doubt about it. This is what we've got to be very careful of. On the break here, Hoddle lost it from a corner, actually. And Litbarski here again gets half a chance to shoot. And I tell you what, he's had a great shot and it's flew by the post again. They shoot on sight, these Germans.
Yeah, Litbarski plays for Cologne. Dixon. Waddle. Reid. That's a good ball by Reid, and what a great run by Sanson. Lineker's gone towards the near post, and Robson is there! And it's over the top. Great move by England. Reid and Sanson very much involved. A lovely run by Lineker, and Robson arriving late, just as he did in fact in a match against Italy, and over the top it went.
It was a great ball in from Kenny Sanson, and Brian Robson's got in just a fraction too early, and all he could do was try and hook it in, and he's hooked it over the bar. But the good thing is that all the midfield players are being so positive, and they're knocking great balls up to front players. It's given everyone a great chance to play.
Hoddle. Stevens. Here's Robson again, a bit of space for him. Dixon's in the middle, and Robson's still going on. He can just get that cross in, and he poked it in there, but Schumacher's down again. just kept in play. In fact, there have been suggestions, I know, that perhaps Brian Robson isn't quite as fit as he was earlier in the season. He's had a long season, but Brian refutes that. He'll tell you that he's had 13 weeks off this season with that damaged shoulder. And he said although he felt he wasn't quite at his best for the cup final and the game in Finland, he feels really sharp now. Here's Hoddle. A little chip in, and Robson was getting in there again. And knocked down! And a goal by Robson! Great piece of work by Kerry Dixon. And Brian Robson has put England into the lead.
What a great goal that is. I'm delighted for Brian Robson. His attitude all week. And here the goal, this is a typical Brian Robson goal. Half a chance, he's got his toe to it and it's flew in the corner of the net. He's such a competitor. I'd have him in my team if he was half fit.
34 minutes gone. Robson for England after Kerry Dixon's fine work. Hoddle playing it in. Dixon chesting it down. The toe poke out. And Brian Robson answering any critics who say, well, it's not the Brian Robson of a few months ago. The Germans know that it is. 1-0 to England. Naga. Rahn. That was a handball by Robson. Here's Mateus, such a talented player. And Rahn coming through. Good play by Butcher. Waddle. Robson. And he's spotted Stevens on the far side. Good ball by Brian Robson. Hoddle is right up there. Dixon is right up there. Lineker's in there too. Hoddle playing it back again for Stevens.
And may I say, this is a well-deserved goal. There's no doubt about it. We've been so positive throughout. And Glenn Hoddle, for me, is running things. And it's good to see him being so positive. Peter Reid's having a great game in the middle of the park. And Brian Robson always getting forward, always causing problems.
Gary Stevens in his second cap. Rahn. Herget. Picked on by Mateus. Back again from Rahn to Mateus. And again Sanson in quickly before Litbarski. Sanson in there again, but the Germans come away with it. Mateus to Herget, the sweeper. Mateus. This time it's Augenthaler. Little Litbarski. Augenthaler. Magath. England leading by a goal to nil then. 36 minutes gone, a little chip in there. And Stevens getting it away. Brian Robson the scorer. Hoddle obstructed a free kick to England. Butcher. Certainly a welcome relief for somebody other than Mark Hateley to score a goal. England coming to this game with only 2 in their last 5. Now Lineker. Dixon's waiting in the middle. Sanson. Hoddle's made himself available. Here's Glenn Hoddle. Well, he's tricked his man well. The little chip coming in there. Kerry Dixon's header, but not quite good enough to worry Schumacher. Here's Felix Magath. Neil Magath plays for Hamburg and is due in fact to become their general manager next summer when Gunter Netzer moves on to a job in Switzerland. Here's Berthold. And that should be Shilton's, and it is.
You get the feeling that Glenn Hoddle's enjoying this. Not only Glenn Hoddle, but the whole of the England team. They're all being so positive. And I'm well pleased for Gary Lineker and Kerry Dixon. They're working very hard up front. But we're very solid throughout, and it's been a good first half for us.
Here's Waddle. been given absolute freedom, Chris Waddle. He's appeared on the right, he's appeared on the left. Personally, I always prefer to see him sweeping in from the left, but there he is away on the right at the moment. Peter Reid. Here's Mark Wright. Lineker after this one. Dixon waiting in the middle. It was very noticeable when we played the Mexicans on Sunday, Mike, that they are so used to playing in this heat and this altitude, and as Franz Beckenbauer said, that they played in little bursts. They put their foot on the accelerator, and then they had a little slow spell. And you cannot play the English style of game up and down in this altitude and in this heat.
But I can see that our lads have improved so much from the first game. They played very well against Italy, but I see their fitness in this game already. They're much stronger, they're quicker, and the Germans haven't not been here very long. You can see that they're really struggling.
Well, it's Sanson now for England, and now Peter Reid. England's throw. What a great little character Peter Reid is. He's been a magnificent tourist on this trip. That sort of craggy Merseyside humour, and I think a lot of people are delighted to see him get the chance he thoroughly deserves. And I would say a point that Bobby Robson was saying, that all the Everton lads have been a real credit to their club on this trip. He said you can see how it is that Howard Kendall has achieved so much with them. In fact, I think that goes for the side as a whole. The hotel management have been saying that they've been marvellous ambassadors for the country, not a moment's trouble. Well, let's hope we can end the tour on a happier note with a victory against the West Germans, with 5 minutes to go to half-time, and England leading by a goal to nil. But now Berthold for West Germany. Litbarski. So 5 minutes of the first half remaining, and here come the West Germans again. Robson stopped them, but it's only gone as far as the full-back Bremer, and then comes off Gary Stevens for the corner.
I think one of the reasons why Glenn Hoddle is playing so well today is that he's got far, he appears to have far more freedom. Now, whether Bobby Robson's told him to use the park and get involved more, I don't know, but at the moment he's playing on the right, he's playing on the left, he goes anywhere he wants in the middle of the park, and he's running the show.
Well, at the moment the Germans have the corner, and so there's a bit of defending for England to do. Nagas going towards it. Bremer, the fullback, being forced away by Sanson. A little touch by Jacobs. It's a nice one touched up here by the Germans, coming eventually to Herget. Brian Robson. Berthold. Litbarski getting it through. Will Ron get there? Penalty given! The second penalty that England have conceded in this tournament. And Ron goes down. And with 4 minutes to go to half-time, Mark Wright it was, as the ball comes through here, Mike Shannon.
I don't think there's any doubt about it, Brian. It was definitely a penalty.
I can't argue with that. The one that was conceded against Italy was disgraceful from a refereeing point of view. This was legitimate. And the Germans now presented with an opportunity of bringing it back to 1-1 as they haul Uwe Rahn off the field.
It's a shame, Brian, because he was running away from goal, actually, and I don't think he had any need to have a dive in at that time. But the only problems apart from that the Germans have caused has been from long-range shots.
Well, it's a full-back, Bremer, who's going to take it. Can Shilton hold out? Can England keep their lead? Will it be 1-1? Right on half-time. Bremer with the penalty. And Shilton saved it! Magnificent by Peter Shilton! And England stay 1-0 in the lead. And he judged it right and got it to perfection, Peter Shilton. Litbarski with the corner for West Germans. That's the fourth successive penalty the West Germans have missed, and it enables England now to keep the lead. And after Peter Shilton, the goal that he conceded against the Italians was a little dodgy. But there was no doubt about that one. It wasn't the best of penalties, but it was still an excellent save. Mike Shannon.
It was a great save and well deserved. It's the first bit of luck we've had on this trip. The lads, like we said, the lads have worked tremendously hard, and it was a great save from Peter Shilton.
Well, you would say the first bit of luck. Peter Shilton would say it was a considerable piece of skill.
Most definitely, Brian. It was skill.
So 1-0 it remains. Gary Stevens and Lineker caught offside. About a minute and a half to half time. Augenthaler, Herget, Litbarski. He's the man that worries me. Jacobs down the line, out of play. Berthold couldn't keep it in. England's throw.
It's been a tremendous first half performance. If the penalty had gone in, it'd have been a disaster for England because they've played so well and they deserve to be winning.
In all our excitement, Uwe Rahn is back on the field again. The Germans back to full strength. Sanson with a throw. A minute to go to half-time. Foul throw. Goes Germany's way. Augenthaler. Herget. Jacobs. Augenthaler. The last seconds of the first half. Just wondering whether Ian St John and Jimmy Greaves back in the studio will agree with us here that this is a much better performance and a more positive performance by England, but there's still work to be done and Butcher does it. 1-0 to England. As you can see, the 45 minutes are up. Half-time whistle. Brian Robson's goal giving England a deserved lead. Glenn Hoddle looking outstanding, and England altogether looking a much better proposition against the West Germans. We'll get the views of Ian and Jimmy with Jim Rosenthal as Bobby Robson goes off there. Half-time then, it's England 1, West Germany 0.
And if you're just joining us, England are a goal up against West Germany at half-time in the Aztec Stadium in Mexico City. The second half live still to come, but both teams still down in the cool of the dressing room. It gives us a chance, Ian and Jimmy, to have a look at that shot from Litbarski that we were talking about. A terrific effort from just outside the penalty area that Peter Shilton did really well to get his body behind.
He did. But, you know, we were saying that the Germans have obviously had that very much in mind. You know, and Beckenbauer has said anywhere, you know, near that penalty area, let's have a pop at goal.
Sure,
And,
that's right.
he is a good little player, Litbarski, isn't he?
Yes.
Marvellous little player.
Yes.
And he's floating around all over the place. He's very hard to tie down. But, I mean, not only him, there was one or two have had shots.
Would you expect, Jimmy, if the Germans are jet-lagged and are tired and haven't had the acclimatisation that England have had, would you expect England to overrun them in the second half?
I don't know, interesting theory this, Jim. We were discussing it beforehand, wasn't we? I think players that have been out there a while probably get to think about it, about this rarefied air, and maybe it plays on their minds a bit. The Germans having just arrived, it's quite possible that they haven't given it a thought, really. Yes. And I think a lot of it is psychological, and we'll just have to see whether the Germans do flag or not.
Yeah, and you were also saying that there's not many people in that stadium taking up the air, is
Well, there isn't many. Look, if they all breathe in at once, it'll get a bit more rarefied, though, but here comes the referee.
We've got a good chance now to have another look at the England goal that I don't think we can see too often from a different angle.
Yeah. Well, Glenn's passing, I think, has been terrific, and I'm delighted for him because he's the one player in England I think has got that type of ability. And there's Brian Robson, who again, as a midfield player, attacking midfield player, is the best in the business. And it's great to see him a minute after making a terrible boob. He's back in there and scoring a goal. And you'll notice that England were onside there, Jimmy, because playing against the Germans, you're very rarely offside.
Yes.
You know, because the man-for-man mark, and you can drag them into positions. and you can play balls in there and not be offside.
Yeah.
You know, which is interesting.
Just another word on Glenn Hoddle. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Brian Moore mentioned how the media put Hoddle under pressure, and time after time they say this has got to be the game for him, this has got to be the game for him. He's had a run and looks to be benefiting, Jimmy.
He's playing very well, but I think, you know, a player puts himself under pressure, really.
Yes.
He shouldn't listen to idiots like us or the press. It's down to him whether he plays well or not.
Yes.
And it's only the player that can do the business on the day, nobody else, Jim.
Yeah, but I think, Jim, he's been the scapegoat. I mean, he was taken off. If you go back to the Scotland game, I thought he was the one player that England had that was looking dangerous, and they took him off. I think, you know, they've made him the scapegoat.
It might be worth, not meaning to interrupt you, Jimmy, but you've been interrupting me all night, so I thought I'd get one back. It might be worth just going to Mike Shannon at the Aztec Stadium over in Mexico City, Mike, and getting, although Jimmy doesn't agree, and getting your view of how Glenn Hoddle is playing over there, Mike.
Well, I'm delighted. I'm the same as the boys. I think Glenn Hoddle is a world-class player, but for England, he's always been playing wide on the right because Butch Wilkins has been sitting in that hole. And now he's using the park. He's left wing, right wing, centre of the park, deep, or even pushing up front. And he's getting on the edge of the box and having some great shots. It's the most positive I've ever seen him as well. He's knocking balls up to Kerry Dixon, and the two front players who are working their backsides off are having good games.
Yeah, it seems to me, Mike, that Glenn Hoddle had always to accommodate other people, you know, and now for a change, they're accommodating him.
Well, that's right. I mean, all credit to Peter Reid, who's also had a blinding first half, who's worked very hard, and Brian Robson, who I believe, after speaking to him this morning, he said, I think I can get through. He wasn't too sure whether he would last the whole match, but he's played well, and they're all complimenting each other, and it looks a good midfield.
It's right enough, Mick. Actually, Brian Robson has scored a great goal there. The one thing I'd like to see is someone other than Robson and Haitley score. So let's hope we can get Gary Lineker, who's had 2 or 3 good efforts, hasn't he?
Okay, let's hope so. We're now going to stay or go back over to the Aztec Stadium in Mexico, whereas we can see here they're all set to go for the second half. Mick Shannon will add his comments to Brian Moore's commentary.
Thank you, Jim. Well, we can see the England reserves there, but in point of fact, the 11 who are going to play are still not onto the field now. Whether that's a little bit of a psychological boost from Bobby Robson, and I don't know. The Germans have been out for a good 2 or 3 minutes now.
Brian, sorry, Brian, I'm not sure, but at half-time against Mexico, I believe some of the England players had oxygen, and I'm just wondering whether they're just trying this out for next year, because in American football they have it all the time, and I think at this altitude it's probably a good thing.
Yes, I think half a dozen of them had oxygen, and I noticed just as we were going into the break at the end of the first half, I saw the doctor going along with the oxygen cylinder, which he keeps in the dugout with him and takes there in case they should want just a whiff of oxygen at a half-time at this altitude. I should make one point about the doctor. I think it's worth saying that the lads have been here for a fortnight, and you can get a few problems with your stomach and so on, but not one England player has had any problem at all. They've been very disciplined. The medical work has been absolutely superb. I think, if anything, he's had more problems with the media. I think he's had a couple of lads of the players who just need a little something somewhere, and about 11 or 12 of us who've needed his attention for our stomach complaints. And I think you were one of them, Michael.
You're right, Brian. I mean, it's definitely a problem. But the way that England team...
There's the doctor now, actually, and what he's got under his left arm, in fact, is that oxygen cylinder.
That's right. I mean, the whole team's application to this trip has been tremendous.
Well, England now back onto the field. And as far as I can see, no substitutions have been made. Brian Robson certainly is there, and there was the hero in the first half, Peter Shilton, and another one there, Glenn Hoddle. I'm sure Spurs fans everywhere will be delighted to see what a good game he's having. Brian Robson, we thought maybe he'd play just the first half, and I can tell you there was an agreement if he played the first half that he was going to come up here and give us a few views in the second half, but I think we can say goodbye to that. And you're not too worried about that, as long as Mike Shannon keeps going well and Brian Robson scores the goals. So we're ready then for the start of the second half. I think the arrangement is that they have 3 outfield players and 1 goalkeeper can be substituted, because in point of fact that's all the Germans have got who are fit. Mr. Lianza, the referee from Mexico. Bobby Robson coming back to his touchline bench. What a win would do for his morale today as well. And England get the second half underway. Now, in the red shirts, remember, attacking the goal to our right. England leading by 1-0. Brian Robson the scorer, and he's the man on the ball right now. Kenny Sanson. Waddle. Robson making a little dart ahead of him. Still Chris Waddle, but it's cut out by Magath. Robson again, the little touchdown. And an elbow by Rahn on Robson gives England the free kick. And Hoddle is the man behind it. Sanson also behind it. Robson making a run towards the near post. And it'll be Hoddle then with the free kick. Floated towards Kerry Dixon. It's Berthold who gets it away. And Stevens puts it into touch. Spy down on the touchline says, as far as he can gather, nobody in the England side had treatment at half-time, and as far as we know, nobody had oxygen. Reid very quickly into the challenge. Bremer with the throw for the West Germans. It is overall a pretty young West German side, and Beckenbauer says that maybe next year's World Cup will come just a year or so too early for them, but he thinks they might be a considerable force in the 1988 European Championships. This is Rahn on the far side for them, and Berthold making a break from the fullback. When England getting in a bit of a muddle there. Sanson, can he get it out of it? Rahn is the number 11. Butcher gets it away, but the flag was up, the ball was out of play, the West Germans get a throw.
Like you were saying, Brian, Chris Waddle has had a far better game than he's had for England before, and he's causing Berthold, the right back for Germany, a lot of problems. I'd like to see him go by him on the outside a couple of times, though.
Well, here's the West Germans again, trying to get the ball into the big Rahn, but the even bigger Wright gets it away. Litbarski beaten by Hoddle. It's good to see Hoddle snapping into the challenge there as well. As Mike Shannon was saying, he really appears to be enjoying it as long as he keeps driving forward and doesn't start to take any liberties. Driving forward as Robson's doing now, and here's Kerry Dixon. Gary Lineker waiting in the middle, looks for a good cross. Hoddle's come up quickly as well on the far side, and it went just across the face of the goal, just behind. Good break forward though by Hoddle, and Waddle was just outside him as well, and things beginning to work out a little better for Bobby Robson.
It was a great run by Kerry Dixon. He's got the space, and I think that he should have knocked it earlier. He's took his time, and when he's had that time, he hasn't knocked such a good ball. I think if he had whipped it in the space earlier, I think Gary Lineker would have got on the end of it.
Harold Schumacher winning his 60th cap for West Germany, the goalkeeper today. That comes off Dixon. Yes, he's stolen just 3 or 4 yards too many, has Bremer. This is Jacobs, the big Hamburg defender. To Herget. Part of the artillery of any sweeper is to be able to get forward and suddenly make breaks, but in this altitude it's not so easy. And here's Peter Reid. Hoddle. Gary Stevens. Peter Reid outside him, the Everton partnership. Stevens again. Gone past Magath. A cross coming in towards Kerry Dixon on the far side. Litbarski is there. And West Germany get the throw. 4 minutes of the second half gone. England leading by a 0-0, scored by Brian Robson in the first half. And as Ian St John rightly said, 2 or 3 excellent pieces of goalkeeping by Peter Shilton, including the saving of a penalty. But here's Berthold. He's made another good break, and Frank Neal is coming in there. And he was held out beautifully by Mark Wright. Just that little bit of acceleration there by the Southampton defender when it looked as though the German might get dangerously to the byline. Mateus going across to take this corner.
That was a great bit of play by Mark Wright. He could have dived in and possibly given another penalty away, but he held him up, stood up on his feet, and he made him, well, he gave away a corner, but it was good play.
So another corner then for the West Germans. 5 minutes of the second half gone. Played deeper towards Ron. Hoddle. Well, what about that? And Lineker hustling Jacobs into a back pass to Schumacher. Or we won't get complacent, because the Germans always have been magnificent competitors. Well, there's a lot of space on the far side there, now being filled by Kenny Sanson, but still West Germany in possession with Thomas Berthold. Now Pierre Litbarski, well stopped by Peter Reid. A good, strong and fair challenge, and there's Peter Reid on his way, with Chris Waddle outside him. A lovely ball for Waddle, and Lineker's waiting in the middle. Dixon's coming up fast. Oh, and he couldn't quite get there, but Dixon might be able to turn it back. But to no effect. Wrong. Bremer. This time Neil is after it. Butcher's gone there with him. Played back for this dangerous man Litbarski. Mateus, Magath, and Wright forgets about the pass back, but keeps his head superbly. Holds off Magath not once but twice, and then finds Hoddle with a good ball as England comes streaking forward again. Robson in a bit of space just inside Hoddle. Here he is. Will he try one from a long way out? He hits it straight at Jacobs. Bremer gets it away. Now Reid. Stevens. Waddle. And now Waddle. Turning him one way, turning him the other. Now back for Hoddle. Towards Dixon on the far side. And a foul. And news coming in point of fact, that Iceland are beating Spain by 1-0 in a World Cup group that involves Scotland and Wales. A match, of course, that's of vital importance to Wales and Scotland, and that so far would be a very good result for them. Waddle then, what about his run just now?
Well, England are looking very good on the break, and Chris Waddle got away on the left there, and he's knocked a great cross in. Unfortunately, it was just in front of Gary Lineker, and he couldn't get to it. But the Germans are beginning to look very tired, and the England lads in their first game said when they come out at half-time, although they'd done well in the first half, it was very hard to get started again, and it looks the same for the Germans here.
Well, it's Klaus Augenthaler on the ball for them at the moment. They've got to push themselves through a pain barrier, and suddenly England are on the break again, and Butcher is on his way, and Kerry Dixon has got it in, and England are 2 in the lead. His first goal for England, Kerry Dixon, after 36 in a season for Chelsea, after a great break by Butcher, after a mistake by the Germans. Breathing space for England, and it really is beginning to look good. There was the mistake. Here's Butcher on the charge. Schumacher just holds him up, and Kerry Dixon finishes it off.
Delighted for Kerry Dixon there. That was a very good goal. Butcher's done great here. The Germans beginning to look tired, as I was just saying. He's tried to go around the keeper, and it's fell for Kerry Dixon, who must be absolutely delighted to slot that one in.
Well, now, there was the mistake, as the Germans, while you're watching this, are on the attack, and Dixon finishing it off. Kerry Dixon. Well, you wouldn't think it looking at the faces there, but England have gone 2 up.
Bobby Robson must be absolutely delighted. I mean, it's been a tremendous performance. All the lads are looking far stronger and far fitter than they were in the first game, that's for sure.
Dixon with the header. Robson trying to get in behind, but the whistle's gone. And now Mateus, well stopped by Butcher. Magath picking it up. England 2 in the lead. Berthold, the fullback. Butcher getting it away to Hoddle. Now, what options are there for Hoddle? Peter Reid. Couldn't be a better one. Flick inside this time to Gary Lineker. Robson. Sanson. That's a good ball by Sanson for Robson. Played in again towards Dixon, but he was well marked that time by Jacobs. Now Mateus. Scott Mill making a break. And suddenly the Germans are in with a chance. Oh, and against the post. They were unlucky there. A tremendous break by Frank Neal. And England fortunate to escape. Well, a timely warning for England. They built up a cushion of 2 goals, but they must not relax for a moment. Remembering, of course, that we were 2 up in that famous game in 1970 in the World Cup in Leon, and the Germans came back to 3-2. Well, they're warming up a substitute, which is Olaf Thon. Waddle, good play, just finding Hoddle. Good play by Glenn Hoddle. Twisting and turning, he's got Dixon away on his right. There he is. And Lineker coming in on the far post. Dixon. Stephen to Waddle. And an England throw. 12 minutes of the second half gone. England leading by 2-0. Brian Robson in the first half, Kerry Dixon in the second. And Paul Bracewell beginning to warm up. I would think possibly for Brian Robson. And that would of course be his first England cap. Waddle just keeping it in play. And deflected by a defender into Shoemaker's arms. So Paul Bracewell, Bobby Robson said he would give everybody a chance on this tour. And Paul Bracewell is the only outfield player yet to get on. Chris Woods, the Norwich goalkeeper, still to get on also. One of the England players down there. We'll come to that in just a moment, Mike. Meanwhile, the Germans with Littbarski, and now with Berthold. And Rahn can't get to it. Dixon funneling back to try and get possession. I think it's Gary Lineker down, isn't it?
No, it's Glenn Hoddle.
Glenn Hoddle. No, it's not Hoddle.
Oh, no, it is, isn't it? It looks like cramp, Brian. It looks to be suffering from cramp.
So Bobby Robson about to make some substitutions. Free kick then to the West Germans. Gary Lineker getting some treatment from Fred Street. And John Barnes was also warming up. And so is Olaf Thon. And Bobby Robson and Fred Street helping Lineker off. And the game will go on, and we've seen how these West Germans can hit things from outside the box. Augenthaler's behind it, Kerr gets behind it, Littbarski there too, and I think they're trying to get a substitute on. Well, John Barnes is coming on, and Gary Lineker, of course, already off, number 10. And Spain have now equalised in Iceland. It's now 1-1. It's Magath who's coming off, the West German number 10. Well, he's just about the oldest player in the side at 32. And Olaf Thon comes on in his place. He's only 19. So now let's see what the West Germans can do with the free kick. England's wall lined up. Let's hope it's lined up efficiently. Alcantara behind it. Shilton in his place. England leading 2-0. The big Bayern Munich defender taking an age to get this kick taken. Now Alcantara with it. Through the wall and saved by Shilton. He's in really good form today. Struck beautifully. The wall was lined up well. And Shilton's handling secure. Having saved a penalty in the first half. Now can Barnes get in behind them? Could be another one. No, the bounce wasn't kind to him.
It'd be interesting to see what England do now with Gary Lineker gone off, because Gary Lineker had a tremendous first half and he's playing well in the second. I think he might just play John Barnes up with him, or possibly bring Chris Waddle in and let him have a free row up front with Kerry Dixon.
Well, of course, John Barnes has played in a central attacking position often enough for Watford. It wouldn't be strange for him. 16 minutes gone, 2-0 to England. Reid had a fine game. Oh, that was a nasty challenge though by Tone. That's the first thing he's done in the game. And my word, that was a bad challenge on Peter Reid. A yellow card. The substitute's only been on 2 minutes. And he's got himself a yellow card.
That was a very late challenge, that was, Brian.
I noticed Peter Shilton in the back of his net having a swig of something.
But after saying that, Reedy is a tough character, and I don't think that'll bother him. He'll be looking for him next time. It's hot out there. I think Peter Shilton just wanted a drink.
Well, they've been giving some energy-giving drinks at half-time. And it's working well. As Waddle plays it in early, and Barnes was almost there. That was a wicked ball played in there by Chris Waddle.
That was a great early ball that he's knocked in there. He's just got a half a yard on the fella and he's whipped the ball in, and it causes all sorts of problems. It could have went anywhere, that.
Corner for England. Wright and Butcher are up. Hope very much you're enjoying it at home as much as we are here in the sunshine with England 2-0 up. Some good news coming England's way at last. No English side had ever lost 4 on the trot. And that was what they were facing before today. But it's 2-0 as Hoddle takes the corner. Not a particularly good one. Reid getting it back to him. Here's Peter Reid again. Waddle played in for Hoddle. Good play. Hoddle striking it not so well. And here come the West Germans. Tone the substitute. Finding Meal. Litbarski away on the far side. This is Herget. And now on for Rahn. Stopped by Sanson. Pleased to see Kenny Sanson having a better game today. I thought the last 2 or 3 games he had not really been on his best form.
The trouble is with Kenny sometimes, he goes walkabouts. He gets in all sorts of positions that he shouldn't be in. He doesn't just play in his full-back's role, and he's been getting caught up the park. And the break early on caught us there, where Kenny was caught up the park and left Terry Butcher struggling at the back.
Offside against Barnes and Dixon as the West German defenders push right forward. 19 minutes of the second half gone. Tone, the substitute, who plays for Schalke. To Jacobs. Matthäus. Rahn shoved in the back by Butcher. A free kick. Can't really argue with that. There gets the sweeper. Matthäus, in fact, is going to line up and take the shot. Played wide for Tone. Nice little chip there, and good defensive header by Terry Butcher. Played in again, and an offside, a free kick to England.
it's important now for it, from England's point of view, that we don't drop back too much. In the first half, we pushed up to the halfway line, and we seem to have complete control of the game. Now we're dropping off, and their front players are just getting that little bit of space and causing us a few problems.
Franz Beckenbauer deep in thought on the touchline. Butcher backpedaling. Neil is after him, and Butcher nicely composed and in control. Sanson. Just hope we can keep driving forward and not allow the Germans back into the game. Did you always get the feeling against the German side, if you give them a glimmer of a chance, they're going to take it, and suddenly they're back at your throats again.
I just feel the England lads are having a breather now. It is very hot here, Brian, and out there it cannot be easy. And I just feel that 2 goals up, they feel they've got the game under control, and they're just having a breather themselves. It's very difficult as well because we've had to make a substitution, and with John Barnes coming on up front, there's a little bit of adjustment that had to go on.
Well, here's Barnes in possession. Getting some support from Reed, and a lovely little ball played by Peter Reed. Urging Barnes to get down that touchline, find the cross in towards Kerry Dixon! Oh, a beautiful goal! A genuine Dixon goal that Chelsea fans know so well, from a pinpoint cross from John Barnes. What a glorious sight for England, after Reed had played a lovely ball down the line, and there's big Kerry Dixon. England 3-0 in the lead.
It was a great header on the far post, typical Kerry Dixon goal. I'm delighted for him. He's had a great game, and it's been a tremendous performance. I was just saying they're taking it easy. This is unbelievable, Brian.
What a great way for Kerry Dixon to top off a magnificent season. A note from John Howe, a goal from Kerry Dixon. 3-0 to England. Here come the West Germans again, though, with Herget the substitute. Here's Hummel. Played on for Waddle. Touched on by Waddle beautifully. Dixon's in the middle waiting. Barnes is coming up fast. It could be John Barnes. Oh, and he couldn't get past Schumacher. And we were within an ace of getting the fourth. Oh, look at Bobby Robson. He wanted that fourth goal. Good piece of play by Stevens. Waddle again. The Germans are in disarray, and well, it's good to be beating them 3-0, but you have a certain sympathy with them. It does take more than just a couple of days to get acclimatized to the very, very special and cruel conditions you get here in Mexico. Hoddle now. Let's see England go driving on. Sanson. Robson's right in there too. Barnes. There's the cross coming in again, but Herget cuts it out for the West Germans. Halfway through the second half.
Brian, I've got no sympathy with the Germans. I don't know what the reason was, but they've had no preparation, and they're getting what they deserve, because it is very difficult out here, and all credit to the England team. They have adapted and they've played well in 2 games on this trip, and it's been a tremendous performance today.
Yeah, they had no option really but to come at the last moment, because they were playing league games up till last weekend, but it's a much needed England victory, and that's surely what we're going to get now. I hope it's bringing, after all the troubles the good old game has had over the last few months, I hope it's bringing a smile to 1 or 2 faces back at home watching this. It's Uwe Rahn at the moment, as the Germans try to look for something, and no problems there for Peter Shilton.
The chance just now that Chris Waddle set up was a tremendous move. Hoddle knocked a great ball over the top, and after that, Chris Waddle to see John Barnes free on the far post was good vision, and he should have whacked it in. In fact, he's tried to make the goalkeeper look a fool and take it round him.
Well, we're looking to bring Paul Bracewell on. Not a bad situation to make your first appearance for England when you're leading 3-0. Oh, and that could be a chance for Barnes. The back header by Herget, though, just reached his keeper. Robson. A foul and a free kick. And the 22-year-old from Everton will shortly be on.
One thing's for sure, Brian Robson doesn't want to go off.
I don't think any of them do at the moment, Mike.
I don't blame him either. It must be great, Brian, to be playing, you know, when you can knock it about and you've got a bit of time. This is what every professional dreams of.
Well, it's Berthold for the West Germans. And now Dietmar Jakob. Frank Neal for the West Germans, looking to get something still from this game. England leading 3-0. Hoddle's little touch finds Gary Stevens. What an important penalty save that was by Peter Shilton that would have brought it back to 1-1. And not such good news from Iceland for Scotland and Wales. Spain have now gone 2-1 into the lead as Sanson plays it forward and Robson's on the break. He's onside. Can it be the fourth? Schumacher's there again and England get a corner. Nice picture, look at that. Good spirit.
That man Brian Robson's unbelievable. He's got three
And
here.
I think Robson is hurt though while we look at that.
And his last touch let him down. It was a good chance, but he was very brave to go for it in the circumstances because Schumacher was off his line very quick.
He was indeed. That was a brave charge by the England captain. And he might have had a tooth knocked out or something of that nature. Bracewell's coming on and Robson's coming off.
His last touch here, Brian, just let him down, in fact, but he went all the way for it, and so did Shoemaker.
Well, he's got a good week coming up, Brian. He's got 2 days at Royal Ascot, he tells me. His horse is running at Redcar on Friday, and one of his brothers gets married on Saturday, so he's got plenty to celebrate today and next week. As Paul Bracewell comes on for his first England cap.
I'll buy Brian Robson a bottle of champagne for the way he's played today, Brian, that's for sure.
Little corner coming in. Butcher trying to get on the end of it. Waddle. Bracewell, first touch. And it's a good positive one. Finding Barnes. England 3-0 up, and but for the keeper it could have been 5. About 17 minutes left. Gary Stevens with the throw for England. Chris Waddle now. A gentle little cross, but not quite good enough.
All the England players are enjoying it, Brian, and I don't think there's one England player who's had a bad game. Brian Robson, tremendous effort from him today, because I know he wasn't fit, but he wanted to give it a try. He said it's the last game of the season, and after talking to him this morning, he said, well, we can use 5 substitute, I might as well get out and give it a crack. Great competitor, and a great performance by him.
And let's say straight away, people are going to say the Germans without 5 of their best, we also without 3 of our best.
They're professional footballers, Brian, they don't want to get beat.
And I think it may cause a rethink for 1 or 2 critics who've begun to raise their voices, because this has been a very much better England performance. It goes alongside the one against Italy on the opening game here when they hadn't fully acclimatised against the world champions. And here's Barnes again. The cross coming in towards Kerry Dixon. He gets a header in, and Bracewell wasn't far from getting on the end of that. But Dixon is causing him trouble in the air now. Kerry, of course, looking for a hat-trick.
I hope he gets it, Brian.
Bremer. That's far too far. Well, on the Durham bench, they've got a few things to ponder. Hoddle. Barnes onside. Trying to sweep past Bremer. Gets the corner. He is a curious chap, you know. When he comes on and he starts the game, John Barnes, you always get a little disappointed with him. Every time he comes on as a sub, he seems to do superbly well.
He's one of those players who appears, when he plays wide on the left, to be very restricted. Funnily enough, now he's had a free row up front. he's good. He's getting the ball, he's controlling it, he's turning, and he's causing all sorts of problems. He looks a different player playing up front, funnily enough, Brian.
Well, Hoddle with the corner for England. Butcher is poised much deeper this time to come in and attack it. Paul Bracewell. Mark Wright. Right, Kenny Sanson. A lot of space for Gary Stevens here on the right. Here he is. And the crowd are shouting "Olé" here as England find each other with some good passing movements until that last one went astray. They were shouting "Olé" as the Mexicans did the same on Sunday, which annoyed a number of people, including my co-commentator, I remember. But they're shouting "Olé" for England tonight.
I don't mind them shouting it when we're doing it, Brian, but against us it does make me very angry.
Well, here's the substitute Tome. And the crowds are beginning to hoot the Germans a little bit, but don't do that because here comes Tone. Bracewell after him, Mateus, or rather Meal. Berthold, the fullback. Vass, the substitute striker on the far side. Oh, and Berthold in there. Butcher's got to watch him, and Bracewell to the rescue.
Brian, the performance by the England players has been absolutely magnificent. I don't think I've ever seen an England side with so much composure and so much time on the ball. They've earned it. They've worked very hard in the first half, closed people down, put their foot in, and now they're getting the benefit. Bags of time on the ball.
Tone with the shot. No trouble there for Shilton. Olaf Tone, the 19-year-old, winning his 5th cap today, and Peter Shilton winning his 72nd. I think Mike's quite right. It really is an encouraging performance by England as Dixon tries to get it through to Bracewell. And I think when you think in terms of the World Cup, providing we get the 2 points we need to qualify, I think there'll be a few patriotic people having a few bob on them, but I have to say, having seen Brazil and Argentina live on television here in the last week, they at the moment look ahead of everybody else, and I think that's where the money would go. I'll ask Mike about that in just a moment when we see what the Germans can do here. Oh, and he's going to get through, Tone, here. Good play again that time by Gary Stevens, but it's not away yet. We just want to tighten ourselves up a little bit, and here's Bracewell bringing it away for England, but for a moment it looks as though Tone might get through. Reed. Bracewell, a nice little ball encouraging Hoddle. Dixon waiting in the middle, and Sanson's right in there as well. Waddle trying to poke it through. Comes in the end for Vass, and now for Tone. 2 substitutes on now for the West Germans. Stevens getting it away.
I think that England will get tremendous benefit from this, Brian. It just goes to show the two teams that we have acclimatised to a certain degree, and it's been a tremendous performance. Like you say, the Argentinians and the Brazilians, what we've seen of them on the television, look exceptional at the moment. But it's been so important we came here in the heat and experienced it.
Bremer, the fullback, with the corner for the West Germans, and a deep one it is. Berthold on the far side. This should come for Waddle. Taken it well, hit it forward quickly, but he didn't get it through to Barnes. Tone getting it through. Ron, no trouble for Shilton. On my watch, 10 minutes left. England leading by 3-0. 2 by Kerry Dixon, 1 in the first half by Brian Robson. Paul Bracewell. Sanson's right up there. Good position and a good ball played by Bracewell. Barnes waiting there, gets the header in, just wide.
Another great opportunity to score, and Barnes, he did well. He left the space, and Kenny Sandson's seen him whip the ball in near post, and he's just got in front of his man and was dead unlucky. It was a great effort.
And from that angle you saw just how close it was.
Como quieran, donde quiera, Peperami sin igual. Peperami fantástico, Peperami buenísimo.
Target for West Germany.
Amiguito, tú también como los campeones, mete un golazo sucio.
Oh, and it's taken well. It's Vass on the far side, with Meal waiting in the middle. And run! Just past. But they're still looking dangerous, Mike, aren't they?
Well, they are. I mean, they are a good side, Brian. You know, I think we're taking credit away from them. But here they've got away. Kenny Sanson got caught daydreaming a little bit and ran. Should have scored on the far post. I'm glad it didn't go in, because Peter Shilton's had a magnificent game. Everything that's been hit at him is stuck in his hand, and a great save from a penalty.
Butcher. Bracewell. Sanson's gone storming on ahead of him. Now, will Barnes see him? Yes, will Barnes make the break? Yes. Is Dixon in the middle? He certainly is. Too high for him, but Waddle might be able to return it. Stevens has come off his man well to give a bit of support. Waddle battling, England's free kick.
Chris Waddle, a good little player in tight positions. He tried to nutmeg him then and got a free kick.
Barnes, Dixon and Bracewell in the box. 5 Germans to mark them. Hoddle with the free kick. Butcher's come up late. Will they have spotted him? It comes off the head of Barnes, and it's a goal kick.
John Barnes really has looked a different player since he's been playing up front in this game. When he's been wide on the left, he's been very ineffective. But today we've seen a different player.
Ron. West Germany with 2 substitutes on. They've taken Magath off and Litvask is gone. This is Tone, one of the substitutes on. Theus. Vass. Tone. Vass again. Goes right, but Vass takes it up again. In goes right once more, and right again, safely back to his Southampton teammate Peter Shilton. Huddle. Bit of space here for Bracewell. Used well to find Waddle. Mexicans are beginning the olays again as England find their men with simple passes, and then of course as soon as I say that they lose it, but they've got it back again with Waddle. Oh, that was a lovely ball, but sadly for Bracewell he was a fraction offside. Berthold. Mateus. Rema. England throw. Mustn't get too carried away, Mike, because there's still a long way to go between here and next summer.
Yes, Brian, but at last we got back to a bit of shape. You know, against Mexico it was a complete waste of time as far as I didn't count that game as a real football match. But we played well against Italy. We were a little bit unlucky, but today we've got back to our shape. We've got players in the middle of the park. Everyone's looking for it. Glenn Hoddle's come right at the right time. Peter Reid's had a magnificent first game. We're closing down everywhere on the park and we're causing all sorts of problems. I don't care who we would have played against today, we would have given them a hell of a game.
And remembering, of course, against Mexico, there were 6 changes in the side. I mean, it's very difficult for any team to keep its shape under those circumstances.
Well, that's right. We lost our balance completely against Mexico, and the likes of Glenn Hoddle, for example, who's knocking balls 40, 50 yards a day straight to a player. He was only knocking 5 or 6 yard balls. There was no understanding. They seem to have lost everything. But today they've got it all back. Let's hope they can keep it.
And Dixon, yes, fouled right on the edge of the box. And if you're enjoying it at home, I can tell you it's only a scattering of Mexican fans here, but they're enjoying it as well. England then with a free kick. Inside the last 5 minutes, leading by 3 goals to 0. A few scattered Union Jacks around the place, but I'm happy to report there hasn't been a sign of trouble in any of the games we've played. Now, what are they going to conjure up here? Reed, Hoddle, Waddle, Sanson, all wanting a bit of the action. 2, 4, 6 in the wall. The keeper behind them. Taking their time. Last, the kick will be taken. Oh, the referee's still not satisfied. I think that the wall's back properly. Hoddle with it, off the wall, and Voss the first to react. Comes off Waddle, and it'll be, or rather, yes, it comes off Waddle, it'll be a throw to the West Germans. Bit of fatigue showing in Chris Waddle's face, and why not? He's given his country just about everything in the heat this afternoon. Herget to Berthold, back again for Herget. Berthold, he's covered some ground, that West German fullback. Meal. Bremer, the man with the shot. Tone on the far side. Sanson quickly closing him down, but then losing out. Bracewell couldn't get in there either. It's the sweeper again, Herget. There's Waddle right back. Look at this good challenging run again by Waddle in the last 2 minutes of the game. Stevens. I think with about 1.5 minutes left, Mike, I think you've given us most of your thoughts today, and they've mostly been fairly optimistic. Let's just see what Paul Bracewell can do with this lovely ball that Peter Reed's played out to him. Kerry Dixon there looking for the header. In point of fact, that was probably an easier header than the one from which he scored.
That's right. He's had a very good game, though, Kerry Dixon. I wish he could have got his hat-trick. But it's been a tremendous tour all round for England, as far as I'm concerned, because I think they've been positive. They were positive against the Italians, and they were positive, well, today, and they've been exceptional today. The game against Mexico was a bit of a farce. I think he just give them all a game, and I hope that they will have learned so much today they can just go on and come back here next year, and I'm very optimistic. I think it's the best England team we've had for a long, long time.
I certainly think it's a side at the moment and a performance that we can be proud of at home. Berthold now for the West Germans, just keeping it in play. Sanson going across there. Falls easily for Butcher. Space in plenty for Hoddle. Dixon's made the little break and he's got there first. Oh, and I thought if only he could have turned it on Jacobs, it would have been a pretty sure bet that would have been goal number 3 for Kerry Dixon and number 4 for England. Mateus now finding Voss. Here come the West Germans again. And a little break going through there, but I don't think Neil will get that from Mateus. The last seconds of the game. Hoddle, out of play. West Germany's throw. The trip to Mexico looks as though it's going to end on the best possible note as the referee looks at the watch again. 2 goals only in the 5 previous games, but 3 in this one against the West Germans. Thus, the final whistle now is an offside flag. The final whistle now can only be a matter of seconds away. And there it is. England have won by 3 goals to 0. 2 by Kerry Dixon, 1 by Brian Robson. A magnificent penalty save by Peter Shilton in the first half. And an overall England performance that Bobby Robson and those of you at home can be proud of. We take a break, and after it we'll get the views of Jimmy and Ian with Jim Rosen.